Hey everyone. So sometimes the way I teach, I make these screencasts. Sometimes they're required for homework, but this one is more for your benefit that you can refer back to and help with making graphs using Google Sheets. Um, so, real simple, I'm just going to walk you through it so that anytime in the future you need a refresher, you can go through. And obviously, first we need to start with data. So let's just say we're going to graph distance in meters with time in seconds. So we're just going to come up with some random numbers. Let's go 5, 10, 17, 21, 27, um, and 35. Sure. And time in seconds, this was at time 0 seconds. Then we've got 10 seconds, 20 seconds. This one's at 29 seconds, 41, and 50. Something like that. All right, so we have our data, and we're ready to graph. So all you got to do is highlight the data, and to highlight, you just drag and click it anywhere, um, and we're ready to graph. So over on the top chart thing, there's two ways to put a graph in. There's this button right here, which says Insert Chart, or you can go to Insert, click that, and hit Chart. I just tend to use the button more, so I'll do that. And it's going to ask you what you want to, what type of graph you want. I don't want a bar graph, but it thinks that that's what I want. But if you click over on charts, hit scatter, there's two options. You can hover over them and see. This one says you can't use a bubble chart, so we've got to use the scattered chart. And even right now you can customize it, but I'm just going to insert it first just to show you. And it sets up a chart with a pre-named chart title. So I'm going to change that right away. By changing it, you just click it, enter a title, sample graph of speed. So this is going to be something of distance over time, and you should know that that is speed. Just hit enter and it will update. We need axes labels on our y and x-axis, and the way to do that is to right-click on the graph. Another way to right-click is command-click, or control-click, sorry. Control-click on a Mac. Hit Advanced Edit, go down to Advanced Edit, and scroll down, and brings you right back to that Customize. So we started with the charts, right back to the Customize. So you can do this without inserting the chart first. And you can change the background color and change the fonts and do all that stuff. But right here, scrolling down on axis, you can change horizontal, which is obviously the bottom, and left vertical axis. We want to start with horizontal and just give it a title. So we want this to be our time. And a good title for an axis always should have a symbol of the unit. You want to make sure, because if I just put time, it could be in minutes, hours, etc. And if I want to change the scale, this one I don't really want to, I could say start at time -10 seconds and go to time 50 seconds. I could do that, but if I just want it to automatically fill in what it thinks it's best, I can do that as well and just leave those blank. Now, a lot of you did that on your graph, but you forgot to put the vertical, so you got to go up with that same axis and switch over to left vertical, and this one would be distance in meters, and same idea, you can have negative distances or whatever and change with minimum values. Grid lines, that's probably going to generate itself, but if I wanted a couple extra grid lines, twice as much, I could go minor. Like, you can play around with that a lot. Scale, default, it's going to set it up if I want to have a scale of 100. But you want a scale of 1 just because it's going to keep it very simple. Series when only touch, and all the way down at the very bottom at this point we have trend line. Trend line is what we actually want to fill in if we want a polynomial, so that'd be something if we're dealing with an equation of like x squared. We would use that, but most of the time it's just going to be linear, and you just click it and it's going to insert it, but it's also going to give you a couple more options now. The label for the line of best fit, you always want to click use equation, because what that does is it figures out what the equation is that best fits those points. This button right here, show r squared value, it's something that I'm going to ask you to start clicking, because that r squared value is just a measure of how good the fit is. The closer that r squared value is to 1, the better the fit. And you can change the line thickness and all that stuff, but we can leave those just the same. Alright, so update, it's going to update your graph, and then we can look. I'm just going to drag this over, move it over. I just want to make sure that everything's looking good, that it's the right points. So just right clicking, sorry, I'm just testing something. I want to make sure, but say that I'm looking across, so this point is point 35 is here with 50 there. So I have my units backwards. So this isn't time, my 35 goes with distance. But I said I want a distance versus time, so what I have to do to switch that on Google Sheets, it's relatively easy. All I've got to do is I need to switch this column and this column. Real simple. It was distance. I'm going to highlight everything, and right at the box, my cursor is going to switch to a hand. Just click and drag it, and it's going to say, you did something wrong. You didn't, you just haven't fixed it yet. So my graph was, just undo, my graph was in columns A, B. Well, I just moved my data to column C. So that's why I'm saying, you can't do that. All I gotta do is move it back to column AB. So I highlighted everything. I still got distance on the Y, time on the X, and now just looking to make sure I have, that looks like a distance of 35, and I don't really like that scale, so I'm going to change it. So I go back to Advanced Edit, right where we played with that scale. On axis, I want to talk about my left vertical, and I want no minor grid lines, and I want it to auto. It's just going to make it a lot easier. Update sets it up. There's probably a way you can usually show the points. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Labels, I'm just looking for something that says labels. Just playing around. This is just extra stuff, so I'm not seeing anything that says labels, which is fine. So I got my points, so just make sure, time 10 seconds, I should have distance of 10. Well, that makes sense, 10, 10. 20 seconds at 17, so here's 20, 17, so everything's right. I'll have my time on the X, comma Y, and I have my graph. So hopefully that helps. A little long-winded. I'm going to do one again real quick, so this is kind of the speed version of it. So I'm going to delete the graph. Just should be able to click and delete it. Should be able to. There's that down arrow. Yeah, delete chart. Alright. So, real quick, I had that same data. Highlight what I want. Click the Add Chart button. Go to Charts. Scatter. Click Scatter. I can do it right here. Customize. My chart title, I want to be Graph of Speed during lab. Put that. Scroll down. My horizontal axis, that's time in seconds, capital T. My vertical axis is distance distance in meters. That's good. And scroll all the way down to trend line. I can do it all in one step. I want a linear, and I want to use equation to show that. Show r squared value, insert, and we have our graph. All right, hope this helps. This is the stuff I'd be looking for. You want to make sure you have units, properly labeled axes, a nice title, and if asked for, that line of best fit. All right, great. Thanks.